right, so here's something you may have not seen coming. There seems to be a beef brewing between what's called the Khive and Joe Biden. Now, the Khive is this sort of very obscure group of people on Twitter. They tend to mostly be black women who are part of this group. That's who most of these people are. But in real life, they don't really translate into anything when it comes to actual votes. And we know that because Kamala Harris really failed to do literally anything. She had that one big upshoot she had after the whole "that little girl was me" comment to Joe Biden. But the problem was her response after that was horrible. She didn't capitalize. And then the following debate, she got completely mashed. So it was quite the failure, to be honest. And it was so embarrassing that I actually started to feel bad for her, like towards the end, because she was polling like 3.5 points. I was like, oh my god. She was like at Andrew Yang levels. And Andrew Yang was actually doing really well considering the obstacles and who he was. He was a nobody, right? But he came out and he had like this energy, and pulling out like 4 points nationally, 3.35 nationally is a tough thing to do. And when you're a random guy like Yang, that's a really big accomplishment. For Kamala Harris, she's somebody with a ton of political clout. Everybody knows who she is. The media would nonstop talk about her. The three candidates that the media loved: Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, and Elizabeth Warren. The media was pushing those people onto the public. They were like, oh yeah, Kamala Harris is a black woman, Pete Buttigieg is gay, Elizabeth Warren is a smart woman who's a policy wonk. She would be truly amazing. The antithesis of Donald Trump and all this stuff. But she failed. So despite them shoving her down our throats, she failed in every way imaginable. All right. Now, this person, all right, her Twitter name is Khive Queen Bee. Her self-described bio on Twitter actually says, like, I think it's like founder of the Khive. Now, she's actually blocked me, so that's cool. She tweeted out this article that says Biden says he won't commit to picking a woman of color for VP running mate. This is something that he recently did. As you guys are all aware, he committed to picking a woman as his vice president, but he then clarified just a couple days ago, I'm going to pick a woman, but it's not going to be a woman of color. Sorry. Okay? And she says, I won't commit my energy to Joe Biden's campaign without Kamala Harris on the ticket. Let his white women supporters knock on doors in the, quote, ghetto. This is really funny. Now, and there's another one. This isn't the only one. This comes from Tiffany D. Cross, who I guess is like a Kamala Harris supporter, or somebody who just wants more black corporate candidates. And it's not really about, helping black people. It's more about, what is the color of the skin of the sellout politicians, right? I want Obamas. I don't want a Nina Turner. I want a Barack Obama. And so this is the graphic that sparked this whole thing on CNN's as possible Biden VP candidates. It only had Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, and Gretchen Whitmer, which I think those are the main. I think those three people are the main candidates. I don't think Kamala Harris has a chance. In fact, I think she has basically zero. I think that Elizabeth Warren basically is zero. I think it's going to be Klobuchar or Whitmer. That's what I think is going to be. That's what I think it's going to be. So we'll see who ends up being. I definitely think it's going to end up being Klobuchar. But she says they try really hard to erase us. And that's, black women being erased. And so it's really funny for a couple of reasons. A, because they all seemingly coalesced around Joe Biden so seamlessly. But what you've got to understand is these groups of voters, they're not exactly in the same camp. There's one thing that unites Pete Buttigieg supporters, the more radical Elizabeth Warren supporters, and not radical in terms of like policy, more radical in like Elizabeth Warren is a god. I have a shrine in my closet of Elizabeth Warren that I pray to every single night before I go to bed. That kind of an Elizabeth Warren supporter. We already said Pete Buttigieg, that your Kamala Harris supporters. All these candidates are sort of different than Joe Biden. Joe Biden's an old guy with a really horrible record that is not charismatic and can barely speak. Nobody likes that guy. All right, these other candidates had some sort of a pull to these dumb young folks. And so it's very different. All right, it's very different. So they're not necessarily in a vacuum going to like come together all nice and nice. There's one thing that unites all of those voters that I just mentioned. It's one man, and that is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders unites them because it's all about, okay, I would rather take Biden than Sanders, so let's go with Biden. All these people hate Bernie Sanders so much that they don't care if they have to go with Joe Biden, who has literally the worst record. Now, the thing is that's interesting about this, these people that you're looking at, while they have some social media anger, it doesn't seem like they actually mean anything in the political world. Because who got the majority of the vast majority of the black vote? Joe Biden got it. Now, why did he get it? And, why was Kamala Harris not able to get any of the black vote? She's a black woman, right? That's what she's all about, right? That's her experience in life. So, Obama wasn't doing that well with black voters either until, people like Oprah. Oprah's endorsement, people don't remember this, and I actually don't remember this. I researched it. But Oprah's endorsement of Barack Obama was massive for his campaign. In fact, I don't think he could have won without that endorsement. Because she went around, she has universal name ID. Obviously, she's a black woman, and so that changed the thing. Now, why was Hillary Clinton doing so well with black supporters, with black voters? Well, Bill Clinton, there's a joke about Bill Clinton where it's like, oh, he was the first black president, He went on, was like Arsenio Hall show, played the saxophone, and people were like, yeah, Bill Clinton is dope, black people really were vibing with him and everything. They loved the guy. And so that's why Hillary was liked by it. That's why Clinton, same thing in 2016, that's why. And in addition to that, you had the Obama thing. So I don't even think black people really necessarily care for necessarily specifically whether it's the person is black or not, as evidenced by this last election cycle and the one previous to that. Because until some real black star power started coming out in favor of Biden or Obama, he wasn't doing so great with them either. But it seems to be more with association. So, association with Clinton and Barack are massive. That's why Joe Biden seemed to have so much support. So, it doesn't really seem like they're voting based on any policy or any record or anything like that, because I don't know why black voters would go for that. I mean, you would imagine you would go for someone like maybe a Kamala Harris. I don't know why they would go for a Joe Biden. It just doesn't really make sense. You're talking about the guy who wrote the 94 crime bill, all the 08 comment about Obama being the first clean black guy to run for president. It's just there's so much garbage. It's what is going on here? And it's all default support because he was Obama's VP. And so it's just it's kind of weird the way this works. Okay, these people may have an effect in the general election. That's the one thing that I will say. This may have an effect in the general election. Hillary didn't do very well with black voters in the general election in terms of turnout. That's largely because she didn't really give black people anything to vote for in the general election. So they just stay home, or they're just victims of voter suppression, which is unfortunate. So there may be an effect when it comes to that for sure, but that could be a big deal. But in general, this group of supporters, in terms of actually winning something themselves, don't really have much of an effect. But it's this really interesting dynamic to see go on, especially when we saw this sort of what was perceived to be this seamless coalescing around Joe Biden, but turns out not so seamless, is it now?